Hello guys, my group is Group 2 and my title is The Petition of Grievances Against the Governor Leonard Wood. In 1926, Filipino leaders came together to issue one of the most significant political statements of the American colonial period in the Philippines, the Petition of Grievances Against Governor General Leonard Wood. More than just a protest, this petition was a formal declaration of dissatisfaction aimed at defending Filipino rights and opposing growing American control over Philippines affairs. Leonard Wood, a former U.S. military officer and close ally of President Theodore Roosevelt, was appointed as a Governor General of the Philippines in 1921. Unlike his predecessor Francis Fortune Harrison, who had supported a more liberal policy and Philippinization, allowing more Filipinos to hold leadership roles, Wood ruled with a firm and often autocratic hand. His administration was marked by action that many Filipino leaders saw as setback to their progress toward self-governance. In response, the Commission on Independence, composed of influential Filipino politicians and public servants, drafted and approved a document outlining their frustration. This became known as the Petition of Grievances. Let's explore the main concerns raised in this historic petition. First, Governor Wood was accused of overreading legal processes. One key issue was his move to nullify the authority of the Board of Control, a government body that managed national economic enterprises. He issued an executive order claiming control over it, which many saw as an abuse of executive power. Second, he frequently voted legislation passed by the elected Philippine legislature. This included law focused on the public welfare, economic development, and even education. Filipinos believed that his constant use of veto power ignored their voices and delayed much-needed progress. Third, the petition highlighted how Wood ignored the authority of Filipino department heads and appointed American officials to key positions even when qualified Filipino were available. This was seen as a direct reversal of Philippinization policy and a blow to national pride. Fourth, Wood was accused of meddling in local governance and justice, particularly in the southern region of Mindanao. His actions there were believed to have worsened tensions between Christian and Muslim communities instead of promoting peace and understanding. Fifth, the Governor General was also criticized for interfering with the country's economic direction. He attempted to close or privatize state-run business like the Philippine National Bank, which had been created to strengthen Filipino economy. Filipino leaders feared it would lead to foreign monopolies and economic dependency. Additionally, the petition alleged that Wood allowed negative propaganda about the Philippines to spread in the United States. This included claims the Filipinos were not ready to self-rule, which harmed the country's image and delayed the independence movement. Even more troubling, Wood attempt to amend land laws in a way that would make it easier for foreign business to control Philippine lands and resources. Leaders saw this is a dangerous step toward foreign exploitation of the nation's wealth. All this action, according to the petition, unconstitutional, unjust, and against the spirit of democratic governance. The message was clear: the Filipino people had come a long way in their struggle for autonomy. They would not allow one colonial official to reverse that progress. All this action, according to the petition, unconstitutional, unjust, and against the spirit of democratic governance. The message was clear: the Filipino people had come a long way in their struggle for autonomy. They would not allow one colonial official to reverse that progress. The impact of the petition was powerful. It united Filipino leaders across political parties and ideologies. Eventually, in a dramatic move, the entire Filipino cabinet resigned in the protest against Governor Wood. Continued interface demonstrating national unity and resolve. The petition of grievances against Governor Wood was more than a document. It was a symbol of resistance, courage, and growing national identity. It proved that even under colonial rule, Filipinos were determined to take control of destiny and fight peacefully and politically for their independence.
Good day, everyone. I am Nicholas, the leader of Group 2, and today I'll be presenting about the struggle for Philippine independence under American rule. After the Spanish-American War in 1898, Spain surrendered the Philippines to the United States through the Treaty of Paris. The Americans presented themselves as allies who would bring democracy, education, and progress. Many Filipinos, however, soon realized that this new rule was another form of colonization. The people's desire for freedom continued, but this time through politics and diplomacy rather than armed conflict. The early years of American occupation were marked by both cooperation and resistance. Some Filipinos, including the leaders of the First Philippine Republic, continued to fight for independence, while others accepted American rule to promote gradual reform. The Americans introduced a new government system, public education, and infrastructure projects. Although these programs improved some aspects of Filipino life, the control remained in American hands. True sovereignty was still out of reach. As years passed, Filipino leaders started to work within the political framework to pursue independence. Two of the most prominent figures were Manuel L. Quezon and Sergio Osmeña. Both were members of the Nacionalista Party and served in the Philippine Assembly. Their leadership focused on showing that Filipinos were ready and capable of governing themselves. They pushed for laws that would grant more power to Filipinos and less to American officials. A significant milestone came in 1916 when the United States Congress passed the Jones Law. This law declared the U.S. policy to recognize Philippine independence once a stable government was established. It also created an elected Philippine legislature, giving Filipinos more authority over internal matters. This marked the first time the country had a fully elected legislative body. The Jones Law strengthened political awareness and national unity, proving that Filipinos could handle self-governance responsibly. Despite this progress, the path to full independence remained difficult. American governors continued to hold major control, especially in areas such as trade, defense, and foreign policy. Tensions increased during the term of Governor Leonard Wood, who frequently vetoed laws passed by Filipino legislators. This led to the cabinet crisis, when Filipino officials resigned to protest Wood's interference. The incident exposed the imbalance of power between the two sides and the growing frustration of Filipino leaders. The struggle continued through diplomatic and legislative efforts. Filipino representatives in Washington, including Quezon, lobbied for independence. Their persistence led to another major step forward with the Tydings-McDuffie Act of 1934. This act established the Commonwealth government, a 10-year transitional period to prepare for full independence. The Commonwealth allowed Filipinos to manage domestic affairs, build the economy, and strengthen democratic institutions. The Commonwealth government was inaugurated in 1935, with Manuel L. Quezon as its first president. The new government focused on education, infrastructure, and defense preparation. Although the Philippines was still under U.S. supervision, the system gave Filipinos a stronger sense of national control. Unfortunately, the process of transition was interrupted by World War II and the Japanese invasion in 1941. After the war ended, the Philippines was devastated, but the people's determination to be free grew stronger. The United States recognized this effort and, on July 4, 1946, officially granted independence to the Philippines. The event marked the end of nearly 50 years of American rule and the beginning of a new chapter in Philippine history. The struggle for independence under American rule revealed the Filipino people's resilience, intelligence, and political maturity. It showed that freedom could be achieved not only through revolution but also through persistent negotiation, education, and unity. The lessons from this era continue to remind Filipinos of the importance of self-governance, national pride, and collective effort. The journey from colonial rule to independence shaped the foundation of the country's modern democracy. It strengthened Filipino identity and proved that a nation's sovereignty is earned through perseverance and the unbreakable will of its people. That ends my report about the struggle for Philippine independence under American rule. This chapter of our history shows the determination of Filipinos to gain freedom through unity and leadership. Let's continue to value and protect the independence they fought for. Thank you for listening.
The yearning for independence and self-governance has been a persistent and powerful force throughout Philippine history, from the early resistance against Spanish colonial rule to struggle for freedom against American occupation and the challenges faced in the post-colonial era. The Filipino people have consistently demonstrated a deep-seated desire to control their own destiny. This demand stems from a complex interplay of factors, including a strong sense of national identity, a history of apprehension, and a vision for a more just and prosperous future. The seeds of desire were were sown during the Spanish colonial period, which lasted for over 3 centuries. The imposition of foreign rule, coupled with economic explosions and social inequality, fueled resentment among the Filipino population. The rise of Filipino nationalism in the late 19th century marked a turning point as intellectual activists began to articulate the demand for self-governance. Figures like Jose Rizal, Andres Bonifacio, and Emilio Aguinaldo emerged as leaders of the movement advocating for reforms and ultimately independence. The Philippine Revolution of 1896, though ultimately unsuccessful in achieving complete independence from Spain, demonstrated the unwavering commitment of the Filipino people to their freedom. The subsequent American occupation of the Philippines presented a new set of challenges while the United States introduced some reforms and infrastructure development. The desire for genuine self-governance remained strong. The American colonial government maintained significant control over Philippine affairs, and many Filipinos felt that their aspirations for full independence were being denied. The struggle for independence continued through various means, including political advocacy, cultural movements, and armed resistance. The granting of Commonwealth status in 1935 was a step towards self-governance, but it was not until after World War II that Philippines finally achieved full independence in 1946. However, attainment of formal independence did not automatically translate into genuine self-governance. The post-colonial era has been marked by political stability, economic equality, and social unrest. The legacy of colonialism continues to shape Philippine society, and the country faces ongoing challenges in asserting its sovereignty and charting its own course. Despite this challenge, the demand for independence and self-governance remains a, a driving force in the Philippines politics and society. Filipino continues to strive for a more democratic and exclusive political system, a more equitable distribution of wealth, and a greater sense of national identity and pride. In recent years, this demand has manifested itself in various ways, including calls for constituent reform, efforts to combat corruption and promote good governance, and movement to protect Philippine sovereignty in the face of eternal threats. The Filipino people are increasingly aware of the importance of asserting their rights and participating in the decision-making process that affect their lives. They demand they demanding are greater and accountability from their leaders and a more transparent, responsive government. The demand for independent and self-governance is not simply a matter of political ideology, it is deeply rooted in the Filipino sense of identity, history, and aspiration for the future. It is demand for dignity, justice, and the right to determine their own destiny. As the Philippines continues to evolve and to face new challenge, this demand will adaptedly remain a central theme in the country political and social landscape. The ongoing pursuit of genuine self-governance is essential for the Philippines to realize its full potential as a nation and to ensure a better future of Filipinos. Thank you.